Okay, welcome back to another tutorial. It's been a little while. Today's tutorial is going to be all about slow, tight turns, just like this beautiful corner behind me here. We're on a trail called Pamplemousse here in Squamish. This one was an overnight classic. Big thanks to James Ivory, the trail builder. He has been relentless in coming out, maintaining this trail, fixing it up, and continually just making it better and better and better. So definitely one of my favorite trails around. That said, there is a few tricky sections like the corner you just see me ride and the corner you're about to see me ride. So before we get into it, this tutorial is really for those riders who find tight corners like this challenging. Perhaps you're having issues actually making it around the corner, perhaps you're not quite sure what to do when, or perhaps you're finding yourself getting really distracted by the other stuff. Perhaps it's the exposure or the trees or the rocks in the corner, whatever it is. What we're going to do today is we're going to start off by breaking down the technical skill set required to get around a tight corner like this with confidence, with control, and with consistency. From there, we're going to talk about perhaps some common errors that I see lots of and what to do about them. And then we'll also touch on the mental piece as well. So with that being said, I also want to acknowledge that corners are one of those skills that have a lot of different could-dos. There's lots of different layers, lots of different ingredients that can go into a successful corner. And oftentimes, each different corner will have a different list or a different recipe of ingredients that will go into it. So I'm not even going to pretend that in this short tutorial today that I'm going to touch on all of those ingredients or all of those could-dos. However, what I'm going to aim to do is give you my list, my recipe of what works well for most riders on most corners, most of the time. Cool, let's get into it. So as always, rather than just looking at the problem or what's not happening for you, such as getting fixated on the exposure or stopping mid-corner and not making it around, we're going to get right down to the root cause. Some of the biggest root causes I see lead into these problems is one, a lack of information. It seems like we don't know what we don't know sometimes. We're just not quite sure technically how to ride a bike around a tight corner like that. So I'm going to give you those tools in just a second. Now, on the other end of that spectrum, some of the more maybe strong intermediate to advanced riders that might be watching this tutorial might be thinking, oh no, I know what to do on corners. Sometimes what happens is actually have too much information. So a little bit like I mentioned at the start there might be too many different ingredients that can lead to information overload. And if we go into this corner thinking about 10 different things that might help us ride it well, chances are we'll get none of them right. Okay, so we're going to simplify this down just into 3 main things to think about. The other kind of root cause I see is a fixation on what we don't want to happen. So don't ride off the edge, don't ride off the edge. Don't look at the tree, don't look at the tree. We're going to talk more about the mental side at the end of this video, but I just wanted to mention the fact that our brain is fantastic at following instructions, but it's horrible at listening for the word don't. So if we say don't look over the edge, don't look over the edge, all our brain hears is look over the edge, and then guess what we do, okay? So we're going to switch that to what we want to happen instead. So our first kind of cue, first thing we're going to think about is really simple, steering. Okay, so on our way into the corner, we're going to make sure we steer our bikes out as wide as we can and then set ourselves up for success by steering the bike through that nice arc. This might sound really obvious, like, yeah, duh, Jake, of course we've got to steer our bike through the corner. Trust me, thinking about it will help. Steering, setting ourselves up for success with that nice wide line, starting that off early. The second one, it's also quite obvious, but it really helps when we bring it to the forefront of our mind, and that's where are we looking, okay? So when I say looking, I'll see a lot of riders looking at the hard bit, looking at the hard bit, looking at the hard bit, and then we often get hung up here. What we're going to do is switch to actively scanning the trail, okay? So on our way in, we're going to have our eyes up, looking ahead at what's coming next. However, if we just look there, we'll have no reference of where our tires are actually within this tight space when we get there. So it's really important we're actively scanning to the next, using that information to plan and prepare, but then actually looking down into the now, making sure we're on track, we're on that line, we're steering our bike in the right direction. Once we're in the middle of the corner, we're there. We no longer need to be fixated down on the now. We can get our eyes back up to the next and be spotting that line of success, spotting the exit. Okay, so the steering, as I start looking, you'll see my body already start to rotate. That's our third cue. We're going to steer, we're going to look through the corner to the exit, and then we're going to rotate our hips to the outside of the corner. Now that rotation is key, because oftentimes we're coming in with some heavy braking into corners like this. We're going quite slow, as a result, balance isn't quite as good, we're not quite as stable. That rotation actually helps speed up the corner, drive our body and our bike around the corner, and help us complete this like 180-degree change in direction. So to summarize, steer, look to the exit, rotate the hips. I'm going to show you what that looks like right now. Oh yeah, that's a tight corner. Fantastic, so a good couple of demos there. Hopefully you were able to see those three elements. The steering early, that proactively setting up with a nice wide line, the looking through the corner, not just down at where I currently am, and then the rotation of the hips. We're going to break this down even further, but before we do that, we're going to ride down and show you a fresh corner. Awesome, so another nice tight corner here, as you can see. Let's break this down looking at it through those same three cues. So we've got the steering. You may have noticed as I rode in there, I actually started on this side of the trail, so on the far left, and then steered my front wheel right out here to the right-hand side. This is called countersteering, and this is another technique that's often used to help lean the bike over and initiate that turn. Okay, so actually starting heavily inside, key thing to remember here is to then steer out wide. Sometimes we'll see riders kind of just in the middle of the trail, and then they get in here to the center, they don't have much room to make the turn. They make it really tight for themselves, end up using lots of brakes and kind of losing all their speed or having to put a foot down. So making sure we're steering out nice and wide. Then comes the look in. Obviously there's a really tight turn, there's a hard bit here, there's some exposure over there. We want to make sure at this point where, yeah, glancing down to make sure our tires are on a good track, but then getting the vision up, looking through the corner, seeing the exit. Our third point we've been talking about is rotation. So moving the hips to the outside of the corner. Again, this helps drive the bike and the body through the corner. Another kind of common thing I see happening for riders is as they move their hips, they kind of move their arms as well. Or to do it this way, they move their hips, arms move as well, and the bike kind of goes in the opposite direction or in a straight line, leading to a bit of understeer. So it's really important that we think about, one, creating space for our bike to move, so bending the elbows, the hips and the knees, and then we can move our body separate to the bike. I often get riders to think about their chin being attached on an imaginary piece of string to their stem. This is kind of our pivot point. We move the hips, but our chin more or less stays over the stem as we're doing that. That's that rotation rather than just lateral movement side to side. Okay, so steer, look, and rotate. I'm going to give you a bunch more demos here in a second, then we're going to ride out the rest of the trail. Before we do that, I just wanted to touch on the mental piece of slow, tight turns with exposure a little bit more. Cool. So we talked about the mental piece a little bit already, just in the sense of we want to revert our attention back to that line of success whenever possible. What do we want to happen? Common thing I often find with riders is we will get fixated on all the things that could go wrong, not actually give corners, give features, give sections of trail the time of day. So if you're finding that you're getting caught in challenges like that, one of the key shifts you can make is start going out to trails like this, things you find challenging, but go out with a curious mind, okay? And what I mean by that is take the pressure off. Don't go out with the mindset of like, oh, I have to ride this really hard thing, or this trail has these really hard things on it. How am I gonna ride it? Just go out with the idea of, hey, we're gonna go out and look at some cool features on a challenging trail today. Whether I ride them or not doesn't actually matter. That goal in itself is to go out and just have a look, to start thinking about how we might break down the puzzle of this section of this trail. Okay, so looking at it through that lens, we're going to come in and think, okay, well, how might a mountain biker ride this section of trail successfully? What would they be doing? What would their speed be like coming in? What would the line be? Where would they be looking? And how would they be moving their body? So doing it in this way, you might start to visualize yourself steering out nice and wide, looking to the exit, rotating the hips and moving the bike over the body, and riding that line of success. If this still feels like a little bit of a stretch and you're like, oh, I just can't see myself doing it, I encourage you to try and see one of your riding buddies who you really trust, someone who is a really competent, confident rider. See them riding it. Think about what they'd be doing where. It's a great way, again, to remove yourself from the equation, take the pressure off, and start thinking about that plan. Start putting those pieces in place. Sometimes I even think about, what would my favorite pro rider do? How would they ride it? And then from there, each time we go out, we might get a little closer to seeing ourselves actually do it. And we keep repeating this visualization process, visualizing what we want to happen, that line of success, again and again and again. Start building those neural pathways. And then one day, once we've got the technical skill, once we've gone elsewhere and we've developed those skill sets, maybe even hired a coach, you'll come back and you'll feel it. You're like, I not only know what to do when, but I can feel myself doing that. And I'm fully convicted, confident, ready to go. And then we just play out that same thing we've been visualizing in real life. Fantastic. Well, hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully today's tutorial has helped you simplify your slow cornering technique a little bit down into just those 3 cues, those 3 movements, okay? So steer, look, and rotate. We obviously talked a little bit about the mental piece there as well. Perhaps even just repeating to yourself, okay, the line of success. That can be something that can be really helpful and that's helped a lot of my mentees over the years as well. So take out of it whatever resonates with you the most. Now, before we wrap this up, just like I said at the start, there's obviously so many different layers, so many different things we can talk about when we're doing a cornering tutorial. And I think for that reason, that's why cornering is probably one of my favorite things to teach as a mountain bike coach. 2 of the probably most common questions I get when we're doing a tight cornering lesson like this is, 1, what do I do with my brakes? So without going into a whole nother braking tutorial or a whole nother lesson, I'll just say really quickly, our bikes are really good at turning. They're really good at slowing down. Not often both at the same time, okay? So general principle that applies here is more brakes before the corner, less brakes during. Does that mean I can't brake in corners? No, definitely not. I was braking through quite a lot of those corners, but what I am trying to do is do more of my braking in that straight line where it's more effective, I've got more grip, and then generally easing off the front brake through the apex. That gives those side knobs on my front tire more grip, more steering control. Letting go of the brakes as I see the exit and I'm ready to speed up. Now the second thing we see a lot of and get asked a lot of is, what do I do with my pedals? Do I keep them flat or do I drop that outside pedal? Lots of pros and cons as always, there's no right or wrong here, but what I will say is that dropping the outside pedal is an ingredient we could use to get around corners. However, there's more important ingredients that kind of form our foundation for stability and balance. So level pedals often gives you more stability, and it also allows you to move your body to create more bike body separation. Okay, so in general, things like line choice, position and balance, and how we're moving our body, where we're looking, they're all going to be more important than whether we drop a pedal or not. So generally recommend try and do this with level pedals if you're not already. Sweet, that's enough talking from me. If you enjoyed this video, chances are you'll enjoy some of our other free resources as well. We've got a whole community over on the Telegram app where I share short, try this on your next ride and thank me later tips from the trail. We also do a weekly remote video coaching breakdown where members of that community can send in short clips of their ride in. I give them feedback, we analyze their technique, and then we all learn and grow from that together. Links are down below for that one. And if you'd like to go deeper, you could also explore our full circle coaching package, which is open to riders from all around the world. Basically anyone who is able to get here to Squamish for the in-person component. There's also a whole remote coaching component to that as well. And of course, we've got our global mountain bike expeditions, taking you to some of the coolest places to ride a mountain bike in the world, and also giving you everything you need to ride those trails with confidence, with control, with consistency, and also with a community, with a group of like-minded, like-skilled riders. That's all from me today. Hope to see you in the Telegram, or better yet, out here on the trails. Cheers, guys.